Hi there. I'm Christine Zips, independent investigative health journalist, with another message for anyone who loves a child. Specifically, though, for parents or teachers at schools where there have been cancer, heart, suicide outbreaks that have presented. Now, this is a very serious topic. It can be sad and scary, but my intent today is not to proliferate that, but to help offer some comfort and some ideas for potential causation for these conditions at schools. I've been looking into the topic of electromagnetic fields or frequencies from wireless technology for a while now, specifically as it relates to children, because children are more vulnerable to this radiation. And when they're in schools for 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, and for the length of their school time career, this is, since it's cumulative, that this can really be a concern. So since I'm talking about something that's invisible, and it's a force that you may not have even considered. It's a difficult sell because it is something that you can't see, smell, taste, or feel, or hear. So it doesn't really appear on the radar of any of our senses. So it's pretty easy to dismiss it. However, it has been proven through thousands of peer-reviewed, published scientific studies to cause harm to bodies and brains, especially to children, but it affects every living being on the planet. So to help show you and make it so you can hear the effects of this radiation, I'd like to share with you a very short demonstration we did using our EMF meter with our microwave oven that we don't use anymore. All we need to do is test this once to convince us that this is not something we're wanting to sign up for. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here to share with you that demonstration. Okay. Here we're starting with our, and just to share here that for purposes of measuring the recordings you'll see on the meter, that we're going to compare this with a building biology threshold for extreme caution that's set for 1.000, which translates to 1 milliwatt per meter squared. So you'll see a little bit more from this demonstration. Acoustimeter AM10, excellent quality meter for this purpose, and it's currently turned off. We'll turn it on now. The microwave oven is not on, so we'll get a baseline reading, and you'll be seeing the lights and hearing the meter. Here we have the light nice and low, and we'll turn the microwave on now, see what happens. Quick start. And for the volts per meter, going up to the top and staying there, maxed out. And the same for the microwatts per meter squared. I'd say I'm not real comfortable being this close. By the way, we don't use this anymore for anything, for obvious reasons. All right, turn this off. And it goes back down. All right. Okay, so that was a little demonstration there, and using a microwave oven is a good comparison because the same level of radiation, it's pulse microwave radiation that's emitting from wireless devices inside your child's classroom is the same type of radiation. Also, the same is from cell phones, smartphones. And, that's not a good idea. That's why in the instructions they say not to hold it to your head because it's the equivalent of beaming that radiation into your head, into your brain. And again, it's cumulative. So I'd like to suggest that with this message, I hope you'll give some good thought to this. I would never ask anyone to take my opinion as their own, but I'm hoping it'll pique some curiosity, so you'll want to look into it for yourself. I've done a lot of research into this. What got me started was I am a grandmother, and looking at our children who wanting to be a voice for the voiceless, that if they understood the implications from this invisible radiation that accumulates and it affects their bodies and brains in future generations, I feel certain that they would speak up about this because they trust their parents to keep them safe, and their parents trust the schools to keep them safe. They should. But this exposure is being done to the children without their consent, without the children's consent or the parents. So that's why I'm wanting to share this information with you, to raise awareness, and just so you know that there are solutions here, that we can reverse these trends. But for now, I'd like to have you consider that we set aside the science again, the thousands of peer-reviewed published scientific studies that have shown harm. Set that aside, and let's just look at how a microwave oven works to cook food. The pulse micro pulse microwave radiation literally agitates the water molecules inside of food to heat it from the inside. Now, when you think about our bodies being mostly water, with adults, we're like 50 to 60% water, I understand. And children, especially babies, they hold much more water per ratio, some 75%. And then children are more like 70, 65%. And with the adults being around 50, 60% water. But, we're electric beings, and this pulsed radiation, it's a man-made environmental pollutant, and it does not mesh well with our natural systems. So that is why the concern for this going on. But I don't know if you've looked into this, but I found it interesting to learn that, for example, cancer tumors usually take about 15 to 20 years to present. So you might, come to a point where it's getting your attention and you go for a diagnosis where the cancer, is showing up. But with the ubiquitous proliferation of wireless technology, that has narrowed the window of when these tumors are presenting to 10 to 15 years. And this information is coming from experts such as Orrin Miller. He's an EMF specialist, building biologist, and he was featured in the film Generation Zapped, as you may have seen, but he shared that statistic with us for that point. But, just so you know that our goal is the same, to return your child to a radiation-free environment so they can heal and thrive. And, every day your child remains in in the toxicity, the healing and thriving will not happen. So even if your child is not presented with symptoms, they usually start as rather mild, like a headache, little dizziness maybe, brain fog, trouble concentrating, maybe a bloody nose, bleeding from the ear, heart palpitations, and those types of symptoms are usually the ones to present. And you can say, well, what's causing this? Oh, it's probably nothing. It's just, this happens, and it does. And it could come from all sorts of places. But a good way to maybe test to see if this might be a contributing factor from your child's exposure to EMF radiation, microwave radiation, would be to, the distance from the source is your friend. Like if they feel better when they're home in a lower EMF environment than they do at school, that might be an indication, like on weekends. And when you're in a lowered environment at home, there are many things you can do to reduce your exposure. such as maybe put your Wi-Fi router, if you have one, on a timer so it is turned off while you're sleeping. And at night, as you probably know, we are restoring our bodies and brains. It's most important to have a low radiation exposure. We can't escape it. It's in our environment. There's satellites up there, and with the intent of bathing the planet in this radiation. You probably have noticed more and more cell towers coming up all the time, antennas on buildings. And there's just no way to get away from it. But where we can control it, that's what we want to look at. So I just wanted to share with you that, we can't expect our children to heal as long as they're exposed to this. But there are ways that we can help, suggest ways we can do that. And we're going to be exploring that with you. EMFs have been connected with depression, suicide, violence, of course, addiction. And of course, as you know, that depression can lead to thoughts of suicide, sadly. And when they have these types of experiences, reactions can seem very similar to ADHD, attention deficit disorder, that might lead a parent to take their child to a doctor, and doctors might go to a logical conclusion of thinking they're depressed, maybe prescribed psychotropic drugs that have been connected with violence. And it's kind of a spiraling effect, but it's really so not necessary if we understand the underlying effects, at least to rule them out, to consider them as a potential contributing factor. And and even though we can't know for sure whether if your school is experiencing students or teachers presenting with cancer, that might be a potential what they call cancer cluster, or just an outbreak in your school or community. Without bringing in an independent EMF specialist to take non-industry funded measurements to check the levels, to see if they are safe within the guidelines. So, and the telecom industry and government will say, no, the cell towers, everything is within the safety guidelines. However, it's important to understand that the so-called SAR, specific absorption rate test, was done about 30 years ago on a mannequin head, supposed to be about the same size of a man, 6'2", and it was done for like 6 minutes, holding a cell phone to the side of this mannequin head that was filled with like a saline solution. And they were just measuring the ionizing radiation, which is the type of radiation that heats tissues. However, again, these thousands of peer-reviewed, published scientific studies have shown harm coming from non-ionizing radiation, the type of radiation that doesn't heat the tissues, but it's been proven to cause harm. So they're not looking at that. That study was industry funded, so it certainly is not unbiased. So I wouldn't give much credit to that, but telecom industry and government, because they want to push this program forward, and they have such an extremely high budget to hold sway with schools, and schools are receiving a great deal of money from leases from cell tower companies, but they can be canceled. And what we're suggesting that you consider joining with other parents to let them know your concerns, to see what they think, maybe joining together and going to the school board trustees, telling them your concerns, that they do not have your consent to radiate your child, and you want them to connect to the internet by wire, by Ethernet cable, and get all the wireless devices, maybe ban the cell phones inside schools, and just to reduce that radiation, to get it wired. There's been no level of microwave radiation that's proven safe for a child, for anyone really, but the children, it's also affecting future generations. For girls are born with all the eggs they'll ever have, and this radiation is going through their body, through the eggs, and that can, affect them down the road. What if they're wanting to have a child? That there are more and more miscarriages that are happening. You may have heard that global sperm count is down. So something's happening out there, and it's in coinciding, running parallel with the same time frame that we've had these wireless devices proliferating in our society. And boys also with, if they use laptops on their laps, I mean, where's the irony in that? It's very sad that they even name those devices laptops, because that's the worst place you can have them, on your lap, close to reproductive organs. And if boys will have a cell phone and they have it on, they carry it in their front pockets, close to the organs, not a good thing. So again, just raising awareness and, see what you think. There's lots of information. I'll be sharing some links below in the comment section. I hope you'll make the time to look into this, to make a well-informed decision for yourself and your children. But I'd also like to take this opportunity to send an invitation for an event that we're holding online tomorrow, April 11th. We'll be starting at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll be featuring Dr. Tim Schoechle, and he's a highly recognized expert, and he'll be speaking about his latest paper, Reinventing Wires. He'll be touching upon the rolling out of 5G technology that you may have heard of, that uses millimeter waves. So it's a lot more intense than what we have going on right now with the 4G technology. He'll be talking about that. He'll be touching upon Wi-Fi in schools, proximity to cell towers, cancer clusters, suicide clusters, heart episodes. You may have heard, especially among young athletes, oftentimes there'll be cell towers near ball fields on the campus of a school, that a lot of, especially the athletes and even coaches who spend a lot of time near this additional radiation, in addition to being in school, that they're having heart episodes. There have been deaths from heart attacks. Children are being fitted with pacemakers. Nursing stations now have defibrillators. And also with this link to depression, that I understand from teachers that they are being given suicide watch notes to be, on the lookout for symptoms about suicidal tendencies with their students, sadly. And again, we're looking to let you know that there are ways to reverse this and turn this around, because we want your children to be in a healthy environment, and we will get them there. So we'll get into that in just a moment. If you'd like to consider joining our Wired Schools group, you'll find us a kindred spirited group of moms and dads and grandparents and teachers. And we share, we're wanting to turn this trend around for our children. And you'll find a link below to sign up for that. You'll receive notices about upcoming videos and events. And for example, we're planning a super big roundtable session for May, where we're inviting a group of subject matter experts, and they'll be speaking on cancer and heart and suicide, addiction, alternative treatment protocols to consider, as well as taking questions from the audience. So that'll be a live event. It'll be recorded, as the one we're having tomorrow will be, and posted on YouTube and social media. So hope you'll consider that. And you'll also find more links, more information, as I've mentioned, including my email address. And I welcome your comments and questions. So in closing, I'd like to share a quote from Dr. Magda Havas, Associate Professor of Environmental and Resource Studies from Trent University, Canada. A Wi-Fi classroom is like the inside of a microwave oven set at very low power. Children are exposed to the Wi-Fi radiation 6 hours every school day, 5 days a week, and for several months during the year. So thank you for visiting this message. If you found it worthy, I hope you'll share and click on the subscribe button and the bell icon to receive notices of when more videos are posted. And we're working on several more. Thank you very much for your time. Bye for now.